heatmap.com was a company, and they were an old heat mapping tool. It was built 13 years ago. The domain is 20 years old, which that is rare nowadays for SEO. I just changed up the website and it immediately ranked #1 for heat map for e-commerce, heat map for websites, all that type of stuff. But I had to email bomb heatmap because it was heatmap.com was a business. Like, you could go and buy heatmap.com right now. So like, they had an old code base. Funny enough, they didn't even heat map for mobile. That is how old it was. There were actually only 3 emails. There was support and then 2 gentlemen's names on heatmap.com. So I sent an email to all 3, urgent, must speak to founder, and I did. And they jumped on a call the next day. I said, hey, interested in selling your company? They're like, yeah, we keep it as like a passive asset, but like, if you want to buy it with a competitive offer, cool. I gave them a competitive offer, and 2 weeks later, I wired the money for heatmap.
But are you still master of your domain?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Master of Your Domain. I am joined today by Dylan Ander, who is the founder of multiple pretty awesome commerce businesses, including splittesting.com and heatmap.com. Welcome to the show, Dylan.
Rob, you're the man. Appreciate you.
No, it is you that are the man. I'm excited to have you on today. I know we got to chat a little bit beforehand, but you have a lot of great experience in like the e-com growth space and have built some pretty impressive businesses, and also have a fair amount of domain stories in your back pocket as well. So do you want to give an overview on kind of what you're doing right now with heatmap.com, and we can kind of take things from there?
Yeah, happy to. So obviously, thanks for having me on. So at Heatmap, we're the only heat map in the world that actually attributes revenue attribution to every single element on your website. All the other click maps out there, which is kind of what I call them, they're not true heat maps. They just show clicks. And if you guys are an agency or you tell your board, hey, we got more clicks, like, they could care less. We care about revenue. So it's really one of the only platforms that allows you to actually optimize your website for revenue. Had to rebuild Google Analytics, had to rebuild Google Tag Manager, auto tag, make a heat map. Like, it was a 2-year build out process of just for the dev. We have 46 developers on staff right now. So it's like not an easy one. It's kind of like on Google, it's a 1-page website and you just type in and it seems easy, but heck no, it ain't easy. So yeah, a lot of back end work, but I love what we do. We just launched Heatmap AI, which is quite literally just what you think it is, where we have 8 trillion data points right now. So just literally tells you how to optimize your website. So we are doing the heat map that tells you.
Yeah, I love that. I know you were saying like you log in once a week, you get an email with all the data-driven decisions through AI of what updates you should make on the site to help you increase revenue, which is pretty helpful and easy to digest.
That's what I'd like to think. That's what I tell myself, at least.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. And now, do the clients actually implement it? That's another question, but you can only do so much, Dylan.
They're asking for us to implement it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, look, let's start nerding out on domains because that's what the people are here for. I know before heatmap.com, you had a company that you grew and sold, splittesting.com, and we're chatting a little bit about how that came together. But tell me a little bit more about what splittesting.com was, how you guys kind of thought about a name, how you backed into getting great domain name for it.
So if you don't mind, I'd actually love to shift the story back a little bit to how we even got to split testing, and it's all about domains, so you'll love it. So back in the day, I had done some SEO of the different varieties. So I have gone very deep into domains. You can buy an expired domain for very cheap, like your usual $12 on GoDaddy if it is expired, or you can head over to expired domains, and I would do that. So across different niches, I've been very SEO focused earlier in my career. Like even on e-com brands, I would just run it up on SEO and I'd make a lot of sales that way as well on top of Facebook ads. So I've been buying and selling domains for probably 10 years now. Like in college, started to collect some good ones, resold them for, $10, $20, $30,000, a couple of them. But anytime I was working on a project, I would always try to buy an expired domain and 301 redirect it to my main domain. And that was
Something that already had SEO juice, could potentially have some overlapping elements, and kind of kickstart things, right?
exactly. So it was like one of my biggest hacks that I always had. So like even when I was doing SEO for clients, I could buy an expired domain for like $1,000, redirect it, and the rankings go up like right away, and they don't even know how I did it. Like, like people 301 all the time. So yeah, that's I'm a data guy. If the maths, go do it. So yeah, been doing that for a minute. But then came across so Next Core Media was my marketing agency. I started out of the dorm room and just did it all the way through like my mid 20s. Yeah, we were always Next Core Media. We did like SEO for like Geico, Planet Fitness, Redfin, like a lot of really large companies. But we also ran Facebook ads and did a whole bunch. And we also built landing pages. And one of my mentors said, "Dylan, you got to focus, choose one." Chose CRO because I knew it was like a budding thing, and I was like, one day, Facebook ads and privacy is just going to absolutely get demolished. So kind of predicted a bit of the iOS 14 and leaned into it. Went super broke that year, super not broke the next year. On splittesting.com, which was Next Core Media at the time, we were doing a company offsite. There's maybe like 6 or 7 of us there. We're like, man, like Next Core Media is just not the vibe for like a split testing as a service company, which like I believe we were one of the first. And yeah, we just went over and like we were just looking on domains, and I looked at expired domains. There was like splittesting.co and like we do splittests.com and like a whole bunch of variations of domains. And like one of my like he was my COO at the time, and shout out Jordan Armstrong, you're the best, man, thank you. And he just went on Namecheap and he's like, splittesting.com is open for $4,000. I took my Amex and I threw it across the room. I said, please don't leave the page. So I just threw it across. I just grabbed the wallet, go like this, and threw it right across the room, said, get it right now, and then transfer it over. So we got splittesting.com, which is what the agency was. And I always say I like people to know what my company does before they even visit the website. So
No, it's amazing, and it sounds like that was a slightly different strategy, right? Where you'd been buying up maybe expired domains that had SEO, domain authority, et cetera. This was just a good name, right? That was very, probably had good search volume in and of itself and high intent, right? How did you think about like the name itself when you were going through that brainstorming phase that eventually, led you to buy splittesting.com for $4,000?
yeah, so this was probably 20, maybe 2015, 2016. No, definitely, yeah, 2016 it was. So split testing was not necessary. Our ROAS is good. We don't need to optimize our website. So at first it was like a battle to get people to understand. I'm like, guys, if I can't like, literally give you an extra 1x on your ROAS, like I'll give you a full refund. Like, please let me do this for you. So it's like now it's like everyone comes to us and my old agency of like, please, our ROAS needs help, after iOS 14. So I just, it was the type of thing where there were like, shout out Oliver Kenyon. They were the landing page guys.com, so like they always built landing pages and we weren't landing page builders. We were split testers. So I was like, I need to kind of, be the Kleenex of the space, right? Like to grab me a Kleenex or grab me a Clorox instead of a grab me a wet wipe kind of thing. So figured, yeah, it would probably be a net positive, and the 4,000 was a very good ROI on investment, as everyone kind of knew who we were. You didn't really need to know, like, hey, do you know split testing? It's like, oh, the space or the agency. So, like,
Right. That's a super descriptive category winner right there, right? That's amazing. Well, I know you parlayed that into grew the company, wound up having an exit with that relatively recently. Congratulations on that. But then hopped right back on the saddle and started building heatmap.com. Tell us a little more about, similar processes you were thinking about naming, brand, and then kind of how domain and digital assets played into that.
totally. So, started building heat map actually before I sold the agency. Before I was even thinking of selling the agency, I was like, cool, we'll have like a holdco, we'll have the software, the agency, the all this stuff. But one person came to me, said, hey, do you want to sell your company? I'm like, yeah, I throw a number. I was like, oh, that's a nice number. And I just, eventually got 8 LOIs and, chose the partner I was most comfortable with. So that was a cool one for sure. But yeah, I started building Heatmap 2 years ago to the date and sold the company about a year and a half ago. And yeah, it was all wicked cool. So as we were at split testing, one of my CROs made a joke. They're like, "Oh, let me guess, you're going to get heatmap.com." And I'm like, hold on, hold the phone.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
I literally was like, challenge accepted. So I go to heatmap.com and there was a lot of incumbents, like a Content Square was a 10 billion company and Hotjar 2 billion company. Like, well, okay.
Crazy Egg, are they still around? I don't know.
Yeah, Hotjar actually was acquired by Content Square for, in the billions. So uh, large TAM I'm excited about. So yeah, it was super interesting. So I've done 6 acquisitions to date. Like an A/B testing.ai is one as well, so like we like our domains. I found that on Acquire. It had no customers, but the code base was great, so we bought it. And that was actually part of the foundation of heat maps, like core tracking functionality. So good domain as well. Still own the domain. And yeah, so for heat map, or for my other acquisitions, what I've done, I call it like email bombing. There's no like formal name for it, but if you guys use like Snove.io or Lucia or any of those ones that scrape all the emails, I would scrape all the emails possible. I'd send it to 20, 30, 40 people, all CC'd, and write urgent in brackets and say, must speak to founder. Hey, please have the founder reach back out to me. And then they would reach back out. Every single time I must have sent email bombs like this, maybe 20, 30 times. Every single time the founder reaches back out within 24 hours. 100% of the time, 100% accuracy. Don't recommend the salesman out there do it. Like, that is not a good strategy. You'll piss off a lot of people. But for me, it worked out a lot of the time. So they would be like, hey, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah. Do you want to sell your business? They're like, yeah, let's jump on a call. And Zoom call 24 hours after that, and an LOI on their desk 2 hours or 24 hours after that. So it went from cold outreach to an offer on their company pretty much within 72 hours. Obviously, tentative offer, LOI, not not a wire. So
Is that what happened with the company that owned heatmap.com? Was that kind of part of the initial strategies you were thinking about the name and the brand? It was like, hey, we like this brand. Maybe I can use this like acquisition strategy to go get that. Or was that kind of in conjunction with trying to roll some of these smaller players up?
So there was no, so heatmap.com was a company. And they were an old heat mapping tool. It was built 13 years ago. The domain is 20 years old, which that is rare nowadays for SEO. I just changed up the website and it immediately ranked #1 for heat map for e-commerce, heat map for websites, all that type of stuff. But I had to email bomb Heatmap because it was heatmap.com was a business. Like, you could go and buy heatmap.com right now. So like they had an old code base. Funny enough, they didn't even heat map for mobile. That is how old it was. So there were actually only 3 emails. There was support and then 2 gentlemen's names on heatmap.com. So I sent an email to all 3, urgent, must speak to founder. And I did. And they jumped on a call the next day. I said, hey, interested in selling your company? They're like, yeah, we keep it as like a passive asset, but like if you want to buy it with a competitive offer, cool. I gave them a competitive offer, and 2 weeks later, I wired the money for Heatmap because it was as basic gets. It was all in PHP. The front end website was PHP, back end code was PHP. And also, just for full disclosure, we have 0% overlap in code or product from that heatmap.com to current heatmap.com. So yeah, it was mainly just buying it for the domain, a little bit of revenue. Like, the revenue was, in the dozens of thousands. It was not a big acquisition by any stretch of the imagination, but I was like, damn, that domain's $250,000 alone. So this is worth it.
That's one, incredible. Two, I think sometimes that's how you have to structure these types of deals too, where like they don't want to just sell the domain because that's the business, right? And they want to have it structured more as an acquisition of the business because one, they don't want to like find a new domain, a new brand, and have to deal with that. And two, it's much nicer to say I sold my company, right? Like my company was acquired is a much cleaner, more exciting story than like I sold my domain and had to rebrand it to something else. So to your point, you figured out like these guys were incentivized by wanting to offload the business itself, and maybe you pay a slight premium on that, but not enough where it would scare you away from making the buy.
Yeah, you nailed it. So like I had to buy the entire C corp itself from some 2 gentlemen who lived in France. So, and actually something interesting for those domain lovers out there. if you are an EU citizen and you have a domain that is with a registrar in the EU, you cannot send ownership over to the US. The domain must live in the EU.
Mm, interesting. Wait, so you're saying if it is owned by an EU citizen, you cannot transfer ownership to the US?
That is correct.
Interesting. We'll have to run that down. I think there's probably different. Maybe there's different regulatory red tape depending on the registrars. But
So we're on Gandhi. They wouldn't allow it. I mean, if you know someone at Gandhi,
Gandhi, yeah, Gandhi specifically can be tricky.
yes, would not recommend, unfortunately.
Um, do you think to like across split testing, across heat map, like do you think having those names made a significant impact on the business, the brand? Like, was it worthwhile? I mean, no, $4,000 for split testing was nothing, but like just thinking about like, is it worthwhile? Does it actually help move things forward? Do you think it's aesthetics? Like, how do you think about it? What have you seen for your businesses?
Yeah, so number one, like I built a nice like little cult following of CROs and people that like to optimize websites. So I built a personal brand around it, which not around the company, but just in CRO in general and e-commerce. Um, so combining like having a personal brand with like being, oh yeah, you guys are splittesting.com. You're the split testing guys. Like oh yeah, you're the people that do split testing. Like just like having it synonymous. I never felt that before. It's like, oh yeah, they're splittesting.com. They're clearly the best. Granted, not saying that we were the best.
Right? You're kind of like the de facto winner if you have the name.com.
Yeah, 100%. And like even on heatmap.com right now, we recently won an employee over from a competitor, which was pretty cool. So they're like, oh well, like it's heatmap.com. Like that was part of it. They're like, I don't know why a large incumbent company never did the same thing that I did as a kid living in San Diego at the time, just reaching out and saying, hey, is this for sale? Like, I was shocked that no one had ever done that before. But yeah, like we are heatmap.com. I was splittesting.com. So like the I don't want to call it false bravado, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of perks that come along with it other than
Yeah, it brings instant credibility, right, along with it. Where if you're we are heatmap.com, there's a little bit of like you don't necessarily immediately associate them with as the category leader. Same way you do when you have like the term .com. I totally agree. Now, of course, it has to be a price that's achievable. It has to not put your runway at risk, etc. You also have to have a business that works. Like just having an awesome domain name doesn't mean your business is going to work. And sometimes I'll have people come to me very early and they want to make a very large buy, and I'll actually try to push them away from like, hey, maybe get something that's cheap and good enough, and like make sure your idea works first before you go fork out a tremendous amount of money. But yeah, I think it's you balance all those factors, right?
yeah, I always had a business going before uh, any of the three notable domains that I had. So highly recommend having a business first and having cash first. Like that is not a credit card purchase I would put to put yourself in debt for a domain. Like definitely.
You wouldn't just throw it across the room. I mean, if you got a good price. Um, so I know you kind of mentioned you've been a bit of a domain investor connoisseur over the years. Any good names you got and sold that you want to call out?
Yeah. So I was really like in back in my Next Core Media agency days, we marketed a lot of ICOs and blockchain startups in the crypto space. So I got a heck ton of crypto domains, which about a year and a half ago, I offloaded a whole bunch of them for down payment on a house type of money, to be honest. I just held them forever. World Series of Crypto was actually, I don't know who wanted to buy it. It's not even a website right now. Like, so that was a very nice sale. If you go to, worldseriesofcrypto.com, I don't own it anymore.
Maybe they just want it for the email address. You never know.
I don't know. Never tried emailing either. So that was a fun one. Crypto.co was a really early one as well. Um, and then, so if I mean, you're deep in the domain space. So a lot of the old black hats, like black hat SEOs, they were into those .xyz domains. So, and also fun fact, to anyone who's deep in marketing, if you guys have a .xyz domain, I usually won't even open it if I get an email from a .xyz domain, because they're known for being notoriously black hat scammy emails that could.
Well, you know, it's interesting. All the TLDs kind of have like their own, uh, I would say, industry now. XYZ has become really big in crypto. And so I actually have a lot of clients that have come in and they buy XYZ domains because, like, if you want to be in crypto and you can't get the .com, that's kind of the preferred secondary TLD. Just like .io is kind of like if you're a tech, at least historically, if you're a tech company, you could get the .io, or if you're like an AI company right now that's super hot, go get that one word .ai. It's like pretty legit. But yeah, that's, you know, I think you look at that versus there's, you know, I don't even know how many hundred or thousands of TLDs right now. Some are blacklisted essentially because they're essentially 100% scammers and spammers.
That's so I made the prediction that as I saw a lot of shady stuff going on in the crypto space, that eventually it'd become a little too black hat, and there would be people out there that would want it. I never participated in that crazy unethical stuff, but yeah, I bought them. I bought them never to use, never to execute, but it was really lovely ROI on each of those.
Yeah, crypto.co is a great one. I'm sure you got a nice return on that.
Also .xyz.
Pretty good. Pretty good. That's why you have such a nice bookcase behind you.
My fiance did that.
Dylan's awesome. Thank you for sharing your domain stories. Congrats on the successful businesses you built and you are building. And appreciate you coming on and spending time with us.
Thanks for thinking of me. That DM was a pleasure.